that the Republican legislature in Ohio passed banning any gender-affirming care for kids who were transgender, and then you vetoed that, thinking, I assume, that we have to be more understanding and try to figure out how to deal with this. Your veto gets overridden. How would you talk to people about how we can try to find some accommodation on this issue, and what would you try to do in Ohio to overcome what your legislature did?
Well, I was informed. I always try to talk to people who are directly involved in something, and so I spent some time talking to families who had a child in that situation. And we're not talking here about surgery. What we're talking about is other medical help for that particular individual. And I felt that ultimately this is a family decision. That, you know, we talk a lot about respecting families, respecting their choices. It seemed to me that if the family wanted to have some assistance to that child, and the children's hospital or the other hospital that they were going to, and the doctors felt that that was appropriate, I didn't think it was right for us to get involved in that. So for me, it came down to parental choice.
As a Republican governor, you were not particularly supportive of Donald Trump when he was running for the nomination. You said you'd support whoever the nominee is. So now, if I may characterize it, you can push back. You're a lukewarm supporter of Donald Trump because he's become the nominee. But all these things have now happened, especially the Haitian immigrant thing. Are you, in some ways, just cooling on this notion of being for Donald Trump?
Well, I think my most important job, candidly, as governor of Ohio, is to get things done. I am governor of Ohio. I learned a long time ago, and I think it's been reinforced in things I've seen over the years, that if you want to have impact on public policy, you need to do it in one party or the other. And I'm a Republican. And so, you know, I think it's a natural thing for me to support the nominee of my party. We have only two parties. That means that there's disagreement within each party. That's the way it always works. And some of the things you and I have talked about, we obviously have a disagreement with. I have a disagreement with President Trump. But you know, I think if you talk to most people, I think most people do believe that as far as the economy, he's going to be much stronger and better for the economy. And there are other, you know, certainly other things that I do agree with him. But for me, it's how can I be the most effective governor for the next 2.5 years, 2.25 years now, and continue to get things done in the state of Ohio, move Ohio forward on mental health, move Ohio forward in how we deal with addiction, move Ohio forward economically, and so there are jobs for people. You know, we are actually creating more jobs in Ohio every day than we have people to fill them. And when I talked about legal immigrants are welcome in the state of Ohio in my inaugural address, I absolutely meant it. We welcome people who are here legally, not people who are here illegally, but people who are here legally, we welcome them because frankly, we need them.
You've always been somebody who's found a way to find consensus, and that's gone now in America. We've become much more partisan, much more polarized. Anything comes up, even hurricanes. And I know you sent some of the Ohio National Guard to help in Florida, but now even that's become politicized. Do you think, and what would it take for the fever to break and for us to become less poisonous and polarized in our politics?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that. You know, it is a strange thing. We are certainly more polarized. We're even more polarized where we live. Take the state of Ohio. Our urban communities are probably more Democrat than they've been in the past. Our rural ones certainly are much more Republican than they've ever been in the past. So we're almost being segregated by how we live, and I imagine that's true in other states besides the state of Ohio. But on the other hand, when you talk to people and you talk about challenges, I think the majority of people want those of us in public office who are lucky enough to be in public office, I think they want to get things done. And when you talk to them, they many times will tell me that they don't like it, that there's so much squabbling back and forth between the parties. But they expect us to actually get things done, compromise if we have to. Don't compromise your principles. No one should be have to compromise their principles. But try to come up with solutions that work. And I think there's a real trend in this country, I hope, and I believe it's true, that people will demand more from people in public office in regard to just making things work. You really see it at the governor's level. During COVID, I worked with Democrat governors, I worked with Republican governors, we all shared ideas. It didn't matter which party someone belonged to, I'd pick up the phone, or they'd pick up the phone and call me and say, hey, what's working in your state in regard to thus and so. Governors have to make things happen. Governors are right there, they're expected to get things done. So I think in some sense, it's easier maybe for governors to work in a bipartisan way. You know, I've challenged our legislature. Our legislature is very Republican, but we certainly have Democrats in there. And I've challenged our legislature to, frankly, put more focus on mental health, put more focus on addiction problems. And they've come through. They have given me virtually everything I've asked for in the 3 budgets that I've presented so far. And while we may quarrel about other issues, on some of these things that I think are just fundamentally important, education of our kids, using phonics to teach kids how to read, what's called the science of reading. There's been a broad consensus in Ohio among Democrats and Republicans to do all of those things. And so I'm very optimistic about that.